Oh God! Ah! No! No! No!
Hi, my name is Marshall and this is Waveform. This video is going to be about the sound design in the Dark Souls games. I've wanted to make this video for a long time, but until recently I just didn't know what it was about the sound that I love so much. But I think I know now. The best way I can explain is with a listening challenge. Here are pictures of 3 famous movie monsters. I'm going to play the sounds that go along with them, and your job is to see if you can tell which sounds belong to which creature. Ready? Let's go. The first sound was Godzilla, the second sound was the T-Rex, and the third was King Kong. How did you do? If you didn't get it right, don't worry. Even though these creatures are biologically extremely different, their vocalizations can be somewhat hard to tell apart. So hard to tell apart, in fact, that you probably didn't notice that I just gave you the wrong answers to the listening challenge. Now, I'm not trying to say these sounds were poorly made, that's not true at all. They sound amazing, but they do follow a lot of the typical conventions we're used to hearing from Hollywood and video games. That's the reason why I love the sound design in Dark Souls so much. In this world, nothing sounds exactly how you think it will. The Souls series has somewhat of a cult following, and it's mostly because the games are widely considered to be some of the most difficult in the world to beat. But even if you've never played before, you've still no doubt seen the effects of the games inspiring others. Even the creator of the show Stranger Things has said that he was hugely inspired by the Souls games, citing the sound design as a reason he felt on edge and uncomfortable. Just listen to this clip, you'll see what he means. Now, you may be thinking, so what? I've heard creepy sounds like that before in movies and games. What makes Dark Souls any better? Well, I think there are 3 things that make Dark Souls stand out. Monsters, character voices, and dynamic music. Let's start with the thing everybody knows the Souls series for.
Boss fights.
Boss fights. Fighting bosses that makes most other games look shallow in comparison.
The boss fights in Dark Souls are as beautiful as they are challenging. Each encounter is memorable, and sonically they're nothing like the rest of the game. Behind these huge choral soundtracks during each fight, there are some really incredible monster sounds. They sound otherworldly and terrifying. Monster sound design is one of those things where you can either play it safe and go with the classic roar and growl sounds that other people already know, or you can take a risk and try to make something that nobody's ever heard before. Assuming you take the second option, everyone has their own way of making monsters, and for me, a lot of it has to do with layering together familiar animals in interesting and creative ways. Just listen to the sound of the monster from Stranger Things. Can you guess what animal they used? Yes, the terrifying Demogorgon is actually just a seal. But you'd never know that in context because it fits so well. The sound designer on Stranger Things has said that he chose the seal recordings because they made the monster sound more intelligent. Unlike the examples from the listening challenge earlier, you could never mistake this guy for Godzilla. Approaching monster sounds in this way is something I wish more games were doing, because avoiding the standard roars and growls we've become accustomed to usually pays off in a big way. Dark Souls hits the nail on the head here. The creatures never behave or sound quite like you expect them to. If you didn't realize by now, the Souls games are kind of,
This is an emotionless pit of despair.
The enemy is rife with physical corruption and body horror.
You're not just screwed, you're completely screwed.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. And the people you interact with on your journey are no different. They seem completely removed from reality, and although some of them speak with you, you never see them speak to each other. Nothing is quite right in this world, and the way the characters talk is a huge part of that. Just listen to this person's voice, and pay attention to the reverb.
Well, you're not alone. We unkindled are worthless. Can't even die right.
When you hear that, you really get a sense of the location you're in. It's huge, dark, eerily quiet, much like the rest of the game. Obviously, there are exceptions to this, though. Some of the characters have voices that are quite playful and silly. Introducing Siegmeyer of Katarina, or as he's more affectionately known by the Dark Souls community, Onion Man.
Oh, quite honestly, I've run flat up against a wall.
Do you hear the cool thing that's going on with his dialogue? It sounds strange, but if you listen carefully, you can actually hear his armor because of the way it interacts with his voice. It is possible that the voice actor actually just recorded these lines with like a bucket over his head or something, but you can also achieve this effect with some simple audio plugins. Let's do it. Here's a clip of the dialogue that we'll work with.
It's been a mind-boggling thing to witness.
Okay, so there are two things that we need to do to make Phil sound like he's in metal armor. First, we're going to have to remove some of the high frequencies that are in his voice. In the real world, these frequencies would be either absorbed or reflected by the metal in the helmet, and would be much lower in volume. Sometimes that's referred to as occlusion. We can simulate that with an EQ like this one. Now he sounds like this.
It's been a mind-boggling thing to witness.
The second thing we have to do is add some reverb. This is where we add the illusion of space. The main knob we're looking at here is the decay time. The longer the decay time, the bigger the space sounds.
It's been a mind-boggling thing to witness.
But we're going to keep that at the shortest possible setting to simulate the helmet. Now take a listen.
It's been a mind-boggling thing to witness.
See what we can do with just a few minutes and some vocal effects? What do you think, Onion Man?
Fantastic. Thank you. A saint you are.
That's what I thought. The last thing that I think pushes this game over the edge is the music. The music in the Souls series is beautiful, well composed, and powerful, that's for sure. But a lot of games have great music. I think the reason it stands out in the Souls series is because we hear it so infrequently. Check out this encounter and listen to the way the music transitions when the fight starts. The music can really fuel your adrenaline, especially if you're not expecting it. But, you know, there are people out there that know a lot more about game music than I do. Like my friend Marc. He's a game composer and sound designer who recently released an entire album of music inspired by the Souls series. Here's what he had to say.
I think that Dark Souls does something really well with intent, and the music is there to add scale. It lets you know what parts of the world or what parts of the game are most important. A lot of my favorite parts for Dark Souls are the moments where the score isn't as big. The reason why it's so sparse is to make sure you understand the loneliness of the world. Because if you think about it, this world is a dying world. So the entire world could have had score at one point when it was alive. The score elevates everything to be like, hey, you should pay attention because you're probably going to die.
If you haven't played a Dark Souls game before, or if you need a reason to play them again, try paying close attention to the sound design. You might learn to appreciate something new. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Waveform, and let me know in the comments which games you want to see next. I'll see you next time.